Well, good evening, everyone. Today we're presenting the proposed budget for next school year. This presentation is an overview. We plan to use the next two board meetings, March 19th and April 2nd, to go over the budget in detail by school, by department, by function, and the revenue budget. The budget, similar to all work that is done in the district, is rooted in the mission of the district. In Pleasantville, our mission is to empower all students to be lifelong learners, dynamic thinkers, and compassionate contributing citizens. Our mission outlines the four characteristics of the learning environment, including rich, differentiated academic programs, a safe, supportive environment of respect and collaboration. It allows students to explore individual passions and celebrate accomplishments. And lastly, provides opportunities for leadership and service. Also guiding our work are the 6 strategies in the strategic plan. These include leadership, curriculum, wellness, communication, infrastructure and resources, and partnerships. The proposed budget for 24-25 is a $61,331,688 budget. This is a budget change from the current budget of a 3.39% increase. The budget comes just under the allowable tax cap, with the tax levy change of 2.74%. There are several noteworthy items the proposed 24-25 budget was designed to accomplish. These include, first and foremost, honoring a philosophical approach to be responsive to the changing world around us and to the changing needs of students. This includes things like the technology advances that we are all experiencing, the response to AI, the socio and political context of their future world, career and industry needs we are preparing students for, and in terms of student needs, beyond the obvious demographics which are changing, responsibility to meet the emotional and academic needs and interests of our current and future student body. The budget allows us to maintain our current class sizes and programs. We are fortunate for a district our size to be able to provide the depth and breadth of course offerings and extracurricular activities that we do. The proposed budget allows us to continuously evolve and focus on ensuring a safe and supportive environment. When I think about safety and supporting the learning environment, it is not just the physical or just the emotional and or just the digital and cyber safety. It's encompassing of all of those elements. We're able to maintain the necessary personnel to do the aforementioned, and we're able to do this with a balanced budget that comes within the tax cap. Since we're talking about programs and class sizes and personnel, I wanted to come out first and foremost by talking about some of the personnel changes that are included in the 24-25 proposed budget. The first thing that you'll see is an addition of a permanent substitute teacher position at the high school. We are able to do this during COVID when we were having a hard time finding substitutes. We have one of these permanent subs at BRS, and we have one at the middle school. And we have found them to be beneficial in many ways. Since the person is in the building daily, they know the routines, they know the safety procedures, they know the technology, they know and understand the climate and culture of the building, and are an asset to the teaching and learning process. In addition, it provides a certified teacher for the students when they need a substitute. So the permanent sub is an addition at the high school so that they're on par with BRS and the middle school at this point with a permanent sub. We are proposing 2 reductions in staff. We have 9 non-resident tuition paying students with disabilities that are either aging out or graduating from Pleasantville High School this school year. So this allows us to right-size the special education department and thereby reduce by one special education teacher position in the district, which I think is really important to note that it will be accomplished through attrition. The second reduction that we have is at BRS. We're eliminating the computer teaching assistant assignment for 24-25. Since going one-to-one, going to a room with devices for technology instruction is no longer the practice, as is using technology is done throughout the day. It's kind of ironic to think about a computer lab with no computers in it. So this is, again, part of this evolving process that I spoke about. And again, really important to Pleasantville is our relationships with our teachers. Both of these reductions will be done through attrition, which I think is really important. While I'm talking about personnel, I want to take a moment to recognize our faculty and staff. I think we are really fortunate and to have the level of expertise, talent, and commitment that we do in our faculty and staff. Their wholehearted commitment to our students, our buildings, our district at large is truly amazing, and it runs from every single role in the district. So I invite you to hear from John Chow, our Assistant Superintendent for Business, who I will turn the presentation over to at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I'm really glad that there are so many people here, and we have 4 more board meetings devoted to the budget. I hope all of you will return. So the next couple of slides we have, actually the next 3 slides, we have shown these before at the budget previews, but I think it's very good to start over again just to review it, because these slides really set the foundation for our budget. So in preparing the 24-25 budget, we face these challenges. The first one is the inflation. The inflation for last year is set at 4.12%, whereas you know with the tax cap is set at 2% for the CPI calculation. So that in itself is a challenge. And the state aid, the proposed increase for foundation aid is at 2.4%. I think at previous meetings we talked about how this number came about. The governor's office actually came up with the last 10 years CPI numbers and dropped the highest one and dropped the lowest one and averaged it out to come to 2.4%. Whereas the true CPI is consumer price index is really at 4.12%. So right now we are advocating to have this number increased, and hopefully that our message is being heard. And the next challenge is the health insurance premium. Health insurance is a very costly benefit for the employees, and we belong to the New York State night shift. And the premium increase you can see here, this is just for the first half of the school year because the night shift is operated on the calendar year, and whereas our fiscal year starts from July 1 to June 30th. So later on you will see that we're going to mention this again. And the special education area is another challenge because we're projecting an increase of out-of-district placements. That means our students, residents, will be placed out. And then also, we'll see a decrease in the tuition-paying students that we take in from other school districts. So these are the 4 challenges that we face in preparing the 24-25 budget. So these are the non-facts that we have for the 24-25 budget year. The first one is the projected enrollment. We project out enrollment as soon as the BEDS data became available in October, and we are projecting a decrease in enrollment district-wide of 5 students. And BRS will see a slight decrease of 2 students, and the middle school will see an increase of 20 students, and the high school will see a decrease of 23 students. For the high school is because, we're graduating one of the largest classes this year. So, the going out class is large and the coming in class is smaller, and therefore you see a decrease of 23. These are all projections, but once the students are in the system, our projections are very accurate. And employee contracts, later on we'll talk about the salaries. You'll know that this is a service industry, so our salary represent about 50% of our total budget. And fortunately for us, all the bargaining units contracts are in place, except for a handful of employees that we don't have an agreement with for the coming year. And 2024 health insurance premium increase, the previous slide you have seen, the increase is very large. Let me just go over that. The premium increase is 7.48% for individual and over 6% for family. And for retirees on Medicare is even higher, 15.16 to 20.57%. And these numbers really have a very large impact on the budget. Think about later on you will see our tax cap is only at 2.75%, whereas health insurance increase premium is pretty high. Mm-hmm. And that has a very negative impact on the budget. And the teacher retirement system, the number is at 10.2%, and that is an increase from 9.76%. These are for the teachers and administrators. And then the employee retirement systems, these are for the support staff and the custodial staff, is at 15.3%. And that is an increase from 13.2%. Later on, when I go over the tax cap, we'll go over this again, because this is over the 10% that is allowable for the tax cap calculation. And then the CPI for tax cap calculations at 2%, and assessment growth factor is at 0.75%. This number really represents the growth in this community, in the residential and commercial properties. This number actually helps us with the tax cap. Later on, when we talk about the tax cap, you will see that. And then the tax cap is set at 2.75%. If you translate into dollar amount, is $1.1 million. And the debt service is known because we haven't borrowed, and we're not borrowing any new debt at this point. So these are all existing debt service. And once you borrow the money, all the services, the schedule is all set. So that's a known impact for the budget. So these are the unknowns. And state aid is still remain unknowns, because what we have on January 16 was the governor's proposed budget. Mm-hmm. So right now it's still proposed budget, and legislators, they're all negotiating, and meanwhile, citizens, taxpayers, and we are still advocating for the state aid. Yeah. And usually the state aid is set for April 1st, but this is a difficult year. So, right now we are hearing that it's not going to be an on-time budget. But regardless, we'll have budget. And special education placements, right now it's going to the review season, so we don't really know the in-district and out-of-district placements, and so that's still an unknown. And again, talk about the health insurance premium, because the cycle for the health insurance and our fiscal cycle is not lined up, and therefore we really don't know the 2025 health insurance premium. That will impact our second half of the 24-25 budget. And also, at this point, we don't know the tuition students that are coming in, both for the general education as well as special education. And also, the transportation cost is still an unknown. Fortunately, we're really a walking community, so we do have buses, but they are for private school students as well as special education students and sports. And the cost for transportation is the increase of CPI, and that number doesn't come out until the middle of June, because that CPI is from June 1st of 2023 to May 31st, 2024. So we will know the number on June 15th. So right now, the number that we put in for transportation is really an estimated number. And then the next 4 slides, you will see the first 2 is on the budget expenditures, and the last 2 will be on the budget revenues for the 24-25 years. And these, you will see 2 columns. One is the current year approved budget number, and then you also will see the proposed numbers. And here, we're really just giving you the summary. And at the next 3 board meetings, the first one is the next board meeting will go over the instructional budget, and then the second one is going to be part of the instructional budget on the athletics, and then we'll talk about the non-instructional budget, and then we'll have the last meeting is going to be a summary, and we're going to adopt the budget. So I would just give you some highlights, but when you talk about the details, you will hear them at the next few board meetings. So the first one is salaries. You see an increase is very, very small, 0.03%. And last year, coming into the 23-24 budget, our increase for the salary line was over $500,000. The reason for this is because, like what Dr. Desai mentioned, that we have reduced 2 positions, and also we have 9 retirees. So this year what we did was that for those 9 retirement positions, we actually set a cap for each position, and therefore we are able to reduce the budget for the salaries. And the other line that I want to mention is the BOCES line. You'll see a very large increase of 20%. The reason for that is because this line also captured tuitions that we pay to BOCES for our special education students, and we are projecting an increase, and therefore you see a 20% increase for BOCES cost. And then the last line is interfund transfers. And you don't see an increase, but I just need to give you an explanation of interfund transfer. So what happened is, when you look at the budget, this is for general fund budget. The last section is called the interfund transfer. What does that mean? That means funds is in the general funds, but after it's approved, they can be moved into 2 funds. One is the special aid fund, and the other one is the capital funds. And for both years, we are keeping at the same dollar amount. The amount that will be transferred to capital fund is at $455,000. We always have to identify what kind of projects that we are undertaking. And for next year, we are going to do, one is to replace the bleachers at the high school, the gym bleachers. And then the other part is going to, and the board has approved these projects, is to renovate the middle school and high school bathrooms. There will be 2 at the middle school and 4 at the high schools. We don't think that that money will be enough, but this is going to be a starting point. So we have $455,000. The money will be transferred out from the general fund into capital funds. And the remaining $120,000 is going to be transferred from the general fund to special aid fund. What is that? That is for the extended school year in the summertime. And when we have students who are going to special education program during the summertime. It's called the extended school year. And the school district is responsible for 20% of the cost, and the state will pick up 80%. So the 120,000 is the school district's portion of the cost for the summer program. That will be transferred into the special aid fund. These are all accounting process, and this is the way that has to be accounted for. And then here is the expenditure. So what this slide shows is that for each year, meaning this current year, 23-24, and next year, 24-25, what does each line represent in the total of the budget? So coming back to the salary, that's approximately 50% because that's the largest cost. And then the employee benefits is the second one. It represents 23-24%. This year's 23%, next year's 24%. And for most of the school district, it's over 70% combined personnel cost. And then go to the revenues. So on this line, obviously the most important one is the real property taxes. That's the amount of money that the taxpayers contribute to the school budget. And we see an increase of 2.74%. This is just below the tax cap. And the next line is state sources. This is the state aid that we receive from the state. And you see a 5.12% increase because we are generating more BOCES aids, for example, and we have finished a couple capital projects, so we'll be getting more building aid. And then another line, you see a very large increase in percentage-wise, but not necessarily in the dollar amount, is the miscellaneous revenues. And this line captured the refund of prior year expenditures, and then the buildings and grounds usage fees, and then also any unclassified revenues, whatever doesn't fit into all the specified lines going to that line. And then this is also showing the percentage that it represents for the entire budget for each line. And this slide shows the 8 budgets. Basically shows the budget amount, and then the budget percentage change is from budget to budget increase, and then also the tax levy amount, and then the tax levy change from year to year. Now, this is the tax cap. So this is something that came into place 2011, and our tax cap is calculated as 2.75%, and then earlier we talked about our tax levy increases at 2.74%. So it's just like what the Dr. Desai said, that we are meeting the tax cap. We are coming in under the tax cap. So some key numbers I'll just go over is that, the second line, I don't know whether you can see it, is 1.0075. That's the assessment growth factor we talked about earlier. That's one of the known factors. And then midpoint, you see 102%. That represents a 2% increase that's allowable. The tax cap law is you can use 2% or CPI, whichever is lower. And since the CPI is at 4.12%, we're using 2% there. And then another number, you drop down 5 lines up from the bottom, you see a number $3,950. What that means is that because this is in the the tax cap law, when the pension, both TRS and ERS, the teacher's retirement system and the employee retirement system, if the increase is over 2 percentage points, not 2%, it's 2 percentage points, meaning from 1 year increase to the next year, you subtract, take the difference, if it is over 2%, whatever is the overage, that can be excluded. So because earlier I mentioned that the ERS increase was over 2%, actually it's 2.1%. So the 0.1% is represented by $3,950. So that can be added back into the calculation of tax cap. That's how we derive to the increase of 2.75% or $1,105,000 tax cap. This is a very important slide, and because this determines what kind of voters turnout you have to pass the budget. If you come under the tax cap, you need a simple majority. That means 50% plus 1 vote, then the budget is passed. If we're going over the tax cap, which some of the school districts are going to go over the tax cap, you need 60%. And we're now looking for a supermajority vote. Right now, we are under the tax cap. And so I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Tsad.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks. So we talked a little bit, a couple of times throughout the presentation about where we are on our budget journey. So we had the budget preview. Tonight was the superintendent's proposed budget. And as my colleague had spoken about, coming up at the next 2 board meetings are more in-depth discussions from the various schools and departments within the district until we get into mid-April when we look at adopting the board's adoption of the budget, and then it goes to a public hearing and then ending in on May 21st with the budget vote and the school board vote. The other note that I wanted to make while we were here is that on our district website, if you go to the departments and you go to the business department, there is much more detailed information. There's all of the history, recorded presentations, slide decks, and line-by-line expenditure budget and line-by-line revenue budget. If your head wasn't spinning after John talked through the tax cap, I invite you to go ahead and take a look at that information. It is all there for the community to take a look at. So finally, we are always open to hear comments, questions, and thoughts about the budget along the way. You don't have to wait until a board meeting to be in communication with us. On behalf of the board, our district clerk, Donna Vitucci's information is up there. My information is certainly up there, as is John's as Assistant Superintendent for Business. So thank you very much.